when Michael would have our drummer over and they would be jamming, I would be sitting upstairs in my room trying to play along on my bass.
Oh,
And they didn't,
that's
they
so
didn't
cute,
know that at the
actually.
time. Yeah. And so I was trying to figure out the songs, and Evan had this idea of like, we need a bass player right now. What about your sister? And it just kind of started to all unfold.
I asked you so much about that dynamic because it is such a unique perspective, and I've known like stuff like the White Stripes where they pretended to be brother and sister and stuff like that, but this is the
What
real
was that
deal.
relationship? I still don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Today we are joined with Michael and Rachel Bright, who are not only brother and sister, but they are half of the Toronto alt-punk band Dead Broke. Their latest album, When the Night Comes In, has just dropped. And around hearing about how that came to be, we really dive into what it's like being in an active band with one of your siblings, from touring, songwriting, and the chemistry of being on this journey with somebody you've already known your whole life. And I think I kind of learned today of how even being in a band could add an extra layer and even strengthen that family relationship. It's super cool. It's such a unique perspective, and we had a lot of fun talking to Michael and Rachel today. So, yeah, let's just get right into it.
We have this photo of us. I was born in New Brunswick. Michael was born in Toronto. And our parents both found work out in New Brunswick. So they had me out there, but we have this photo of us in the basement where we're standing on plastic like chairs, and we have like Michael's got a plastic play guitar, and I've got like this mini saxophone. So we used to like set up a fake stage for our parents and make music for them.
That was a very real stage, Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
First
so
stage we ever
cool.
played.
Yeah, that's almost like kind of like manifesting your future in a way.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to almost like instinctively do that. I mean, we were like 4 or 5, and Rich probably was like 2 or 3. So
Yeah, it's so cool. And even like I'm familiar with like the newer singles you guys put out from When the Night Comes In. And I just kind of want to know like to when did you guys start as a band? Like obviously you guys are both like trained in music and everything. And when was like the time when you were guys were just hanging or whatever and being like, hey, let's do something together?
um yeah, that came so kind of got the band started and rolling with some of my high school friends, and it was a little more ragtag at the time. We had kind of players coming and going, and we were just kind of picking up the odd gig. Rachel was actually seeing an acupuncturist at the time. I'll let her talk about that if she wants to go down that road. But we spent a lot of time traveling together because I would drive her to these appointments. And that's really when we were connecting on the kind of music that we liked. And, despite our difference in age, we found a lot of common ground. And we would kind of get charged up after, being in the car. And we would then pick up the instruments and start, having fun. And that's kind of how it started. It really snowballed after that. Probably 3 months after that, we were like up and running with shows. And it wasn't like the one-offs that we were doing before, but like okay, um, that was the summer that we got our first van and really started hitting the highway and touring. So yeah, it didn't take long once we connected.
Yeah, I was about 17. I noticed I was getting some bad headaches in high school, so we had heard some like naturopathic methods that included acupuncture and massage. So yeah, Michael was taking me to these sessions, kind of in the fall of me being 17, and then the spring I would turn 18. So February, I remember this really distinctly. We were kind of starting to talk about it more seriously, of it being a possibility of me joining Michael and Evan and Zach at the time. And then I think it was about 3 or so months later in May, we played our first show.
Yeah, that's super cool. So it sounds like there was like some pivotal like car rides and just like some deep talks about just like passions and music and everything that kind of brought you into the fold of the band and everything.
Yeah, it's really nice to have been able to have that time, because as you grow up with your siblings, you kind of you're together when you're really young, and then you kind of have to explore on your own, and you have your own friends, but you also kind of mingle together. But then I think, yeah, towards my latter teens, we started to gel a little bit more and more, and we were a little bit more accepting that we could be in each other's circles. Uh,
Mhm.
and so even when Michael would have our drummer over and they would be jamming, I would be sitting upstairs in my room trying to play along on my bass.
Oh,
And they
that's
didn't they
so
didn't
cute
know that at the
actually.
time, yeah. And so I was trying to figure out the songs, and Evan had this idea of like, we need a bass player right now. What about your sister? And it just kind of started to all unfold. And
Yeah, you
so
probably
before we
came
knew
like
it,
downstairs already knowing the songs. All right, let's see where this come
definitely
from.
ready to rip. And then, yeah, before we knew it, we were heading to Montreal, sleeping in the van, having a lot of fun and making good memories.
Oh, so cool. Even I think it's just like so amazing, like just the sibling dynamic too. I noticed like with my sister too, and I wonder if this kind of translates to music. Like we can kind of have like conversations with our eyes. Like if we're at a dinner table and like one of our
Yeah.
aunts says something crazy, we can just look at each other and just like
Yeah.
one look
Yeah.
will tell 1,000 sentences.
Yeah,
Is do you
absolutely.
guys like have that certain like I guess the family psychic link when you guys are like either recording or playing or anything like that? Does it translate to your art?
I would definitely
Definitely.
say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Even
Yeah.
like
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
even with Zach and Evan, like it's you 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 really tap into something when you're in a musical group, and when you have that knowledge of each other and that kind of spatial awareness. Like it's definitely like, yeah, a learned sixth sense or something, because even despite any long lengths of time apart, as soon as we're back together, it just all clicks. Our drummer Evan was living out in Vancouver for the last year, and we just did a run of shows with him in August, and I think everyone was a little nervous because we hadn't played with him in a few months, well, over a few months, going on a year, and I think we rehearsed once. We didn't really even need the rehearsal, so yeah, like we know Zach and Evan so well, and that's even amplified with me and Rach. Just sharing everything. Brother sister
Mhm.
connection. Sometimes, yeah, like you said, it's just a look or it's a vibe, and we're just kind of like,
Yeah, just
yeah,
raise the eyebrow and it's like,
yeah,
yep. That's so cool. Even
yeah,
it's interesting too, like you mentioned, you guys were like on tour, like sleeping in a van and stuff. And I've talked to and just known many bands where they don't really know their band members until they go on tour. And I can imagine it's like you guys grew up together and it's there's not really like any surprises, I guess,
yeah.
Yeah.
in that sense of like just knowing what you're getting into, like spending a lot of time with somebody and how they kind of live or just vibe and gel and everything.
Yeah. We always know how to make each other laugh, or, break any tension, or um yeah, it just feels like you always have a piece of home wherever you are. And I
Mhm.
think being in a band for so long with the other guys as well, you know, that familiarity is also within them now as well.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And prior to this latest record, have you guys only like released like one album? I was kind of like looking through your stuff. So there's like the self-titled and I listened to a bit of that. And how would you say like you kind of evolved as a band when coming in and making this new one that's about to be released?
We really wanted to push ourselves both musically and sonically. I guess you would say, like the first record, like that record still excites me. You know, every now and then, like I'll hear a little like clip of it somewhere, or like it will come up in the the YouTube algorithm. Like, oh, okay, I can hear us, and that I'm really stoked at that record we made. And just a little bit about that first record was it was a live off the floor recorded album, and we did that whole record in like under a week. It was probably 3 or 4 days. So yeah, it was a crash course, kind of full length. That was Rachel's kind of baptism by fire moment. You know, she had really just joined the band, and probably like 6 months later, we found ourselves recording that record. And yeah, I mean, we were thrilled to get that many songs done in that short of a period of time, and it definitely reflected like where we were at and where we were hoping to go, just kind of based on all the different artists that we listened to, and just our own artistic traits. Like you want to always be building and enhancing what you want to do. So it would have been very easy for us to just be in a room and record something live off the floor once again. But what we ultimately wanted to do was craft a record with a little more time, a little more attention to detail, and just be very mindful of what we were putting out. So this record, we really wanted to go the route of enhanced, production methods, and having a producer such as Alex work with us and to make that vision a reality. So essentially what we wanted to do was kind of raise the bar for ourselves a little bit, and also take our listeners on that ride as well. And I think that if they follow the continuity from the first record, and then the subsequent EPs that we put out up until this next record, you're going to hear a line of continuity, even though the music and the vibe is changing ever so slightly. So I'd say it's a little less rough around the edges, and a little more sheen going on.
Yeah. And from the singles that I heard, yeah, it sounds amazing. And I think I even read like the person who mastered it, it's had in brackets beside their name, and it said they worked with like Metallica and Pharrell and stuff like that. So that's pretty crazy to have somebody like that kind of like put the final polish on your work.
Yeah, Ruben absolutely crushed it. We got in touch with him. It was kind of at the point with the record where we were exploring some options for mastering, and it was just like, oh, who's made some of our favorite records? And I started pulling vinyl records off my shelf, and his name came up a few times, and I said, okay, like, how about this guy? So I shot him an email, and they wrote back, and like, they were very timely and very professional and very much into the project. So with all that, we said, let's go.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I say this all the time to like creators too, and sometimes I got to remind myself this too. Sometimes the biggest opportunities, all you got to do is ask. Like you can see a name on like your favorite record or whatever, and not realize like you can go to their website, they might have a contact there, and they'll get back to you most of the time too, even if they're not feeling it or whatever. But it's still that's so cool that you did that. I didn't know that extra layer to this record, and good on you, man.
Sometimes we both get a little antsy or, nervous or excited sending out big emails like that, because you really do never know. So
Mhm.
oftentimes we'll be copy and pasting and text to each other. Does this sound good? Do you think he'll like, do you think they'll
Yeah,
reply to this?
yeah,
Sure enough, he did.
Do I
yeah.
sound like a weirdo?
Yeah, you're reading it over and over again. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I totally know how that feels in like a totally different way.
Yeah.
Another thing I was saying to Rachel before you jumped on the call, Michael, I've been interviewing a lot of people from not from Toronto, and I live in Toronto now. And one thing I loved was just seeing the video of Not Yours to Take, because the day you had in that video, I literally had like last week. I woke up to a text my buddy's like, hey, like some bands are playing, you want to come out party? I put on my glasses, went out, was taking the same streetcar and subways you did in that video, and
Oh,
like
amazing.
even
Oh,
like
okay.
as vague as the story is, like kind of like visually, I thought it was cool how it kind of like gets blurry, kind of shows that you're having a couple drinks or whatever. And like when I watched that, I don't know, it just like hit close to home. Like just did that and took the lonely walk home after and just like passed out on the couch. But
I
yeah, that
love
was
that.
yeah, song and video. I loved it so much. And do you want to tell me a little bit about making the video? I've made some videos on the TTC, and it's always been kind of exciting, like hit or miss type of hiding from security and doing things on the low. Did you have that kind of experience as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was as guerrilla as possible. So we had to be very mindful with the shots that we wanted to get, how we wanted things to look. And yeah, it was like, what's our backup plan if we don't get it? And luckily we got everything that we sought out to get. And the big one for me was DuPont Station, like you're saying. Um, I moved up into this hood a few years back, and as soon as I saw those, well, I'd known about them before, but they became, more in my daily routine and daily surroundings. And as soon as I saw them, I'm like, okay, we got to point a camera at those things and make a video of this. And yeah, so we did just that. It was a night in December. As you could see, it's not summer in Toronto in some of those shots. It was very cold when we were shooting. So, you could see Zach's breath as he's strumming his guitar. And I'm trying to hold in all my shivering under that leather jacket. But yeah, that shot coming down the station, we got 2 or 3 shots of that. And then I think on the third or fourth shot, we had this sad TTC employee just go, "Okay, you guys done? Can you guys move
Yeah.
on?"
So they let you
We're like, "Yeah,
rock a little bit, which is good.
yeah," and we're like, "We are going to take the train. We are paying customers." So yeah, it was an adventure as fun as the video actually portrays. Like a lot of those shots was just like, run in, run out, try to get it, and kind of piece together, like you're saying, most any of our nights in Toronto, right? You're all the sights and sounds, all how overstimulating things can be, and how at the same time how quiet some of those busy streets can also play as your setting. So it was a really fun video to make, and we captured everything I think just in 1 or 2 nights.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like just what you were mentioning too, it really captured that vibe, being somebody who just like enjoys the nightlife of Toronto too. And I like how you mentioned just the quiet of the busy streets. That's something that I never been able to put into words, but it's always just like a feeling you get like when you're coming home at like 3 a.m. and you could be on Bloor and just see like one person and you're hammered and you just walk by them. And usually like during the day, it's like all busy traffic, even like Dundas Square at those late hours. I feel like a lot of people who are not from here don't really know that. They think it's just like crazy busy all the time, but there is a certain like stillness and eeriness to it once in a while.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
Yeah,
Rach, you
even
got anything to add?
Oh well, I was just as you were telling the story of making the video, I was reflecting on how much fun we had with Ryan, our videographer and editor that night. We had the band van out and we all piled in and we were ripping around. I would drop them off at the subway station and then I'd book it down to Spadina, wait for them to come meet up with me, go out to Etobicoke, get shots of Zach by the big industrial doors. Yeah, we had a lot of fun that night. But just thinking about that, the stillness of the night too. It's so funny. They talk about New York being a city that never sleeps, but even being on tour in New York, you find a lot of really quiet moments. downtown when everything shuts down. And there's so many things that could go wrong, but you feel really safe in it as well. Um,
Hmm.
maybe no one's really looking out for you at those times, and you feel like you might have to watch your back, but you feel safe and you're fine, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like sometimes like in the media, most of my family doesn't live in Toronto. They'll turn on the news and it's just like stabbing, shooting, and it's usually like north of Toronto. So that's what they think I live in every
Yeah.
day, or it's just like my sister is also living here. So when they hear like we're walking around at night by themselves, like they just think it's like a big like shootout. But I've honestly felt safer here than many other towns I've been because just also the population too. It's always like there's this, even with the stillness, there's always like somebody around, or if you were in trouble, you could, there's places you can reach out, you know, where like from going to college in Hamilton, I felt like that was way more scarier walking down that downtown and everything. But yeah, it's just so interesting, just the different perspectives. And yeah, another question I had, just kind of going back to the sibling vibe in the van or the band and everything. And I just wanted to know, with making music together, have you guys through this process like learned anything new about each other, um even though like you've grown up together or whatever, but then in the process of like maybe like writing songs or touring, what has there any things that kind of popped up where you learned something new?
I guess just being able to read each other better as like more and more as time goes on. We've always had like that, funny, you give one look and you know what each other are thinking, but um being able to riff off one another, understand each other's moods, see like where you could take something. You can see the drive in one another, or maybe someone's tired and you're able to pick them back up, or um, even down to technical stuff. Um, we have moments where we can, just both play along and like show each other the guitar neck where we're playing, or like have little moments like that, or maybe discuss song ideas and how to build the song, and that's something that I would really like to continue working on, and that's something I've been leaning on Michael for a little bit more and more, because it's been really really fun just as a younger sibling, especially watching him like accomplish so much, and it's been so much fun to be a part of that with him. So doing things together and learning from each other, yeah, it's been a really cool ride.
Well,
Yeah, I think jumping off that, I've learned a lot of um, Rachel's areas of comfort, and it's really helpful to know not only what your own limitations are, but the limitations of the people around you, and it just kind of makes everything a little easier when you can tap into the reality of, okay, how are we going to react to this, or like, what is this too much work to put on someone, and it's just been really great seeing Rachel come out of her shell more and more musically, um, and that definitely also builds into her personality even outside the band. But musically, we would go into a studio and there'd be a lot of kind of shaky hands with Rachel, or like maybe clammy, or like just intimidation. And it is intimidating. You go in there and there's all these crazy machines that we put to work, and sometimes the producer, whoever we're working with, that's someone brand new that we're learning about, and we're learning our comfort levels with them. So it takes time to really like deal with those elements. And now Rachel is very commanding in studio. She can go in and knock her parts down in with relative ease. She did her first vocal track ever on Not There Yet, and I think she did 2 takes of it, which was crazy to see her come out of her, comfort zone and finally approach the mic and knock down something really great in a very short amount of time. So yeah, it's definitely taken our brother sister relationship to next level, because when you're creating with someone, and even like what Rachel was saying, when you're seeing them progress, it's just so exciting. And it even more exciting when that person is your younger sibling. You're like, okay, like we're we're moving miles here. It just makes the whole thing a lot more enjoyable. So it's been great seeing her come into her own and come to the table with like fresh ideas and kind of just know the direction and the identity and nature of Dead Broke, and what it's going to continue to blossom into.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I asked you so much about that dynamic because it is such a unique perspective. And I've known like stuff like the White Stripes where they pretended to be brother and sister and stuff like that. But this is the
What
real
was that
deal.
relationship? I still don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a big mystery,
Yeah.
but yeah, you guys are the real deal. And it's cool. Like I'm excited to hear the rest of the tracks for people listening. I mentioned in my intro it's coming out on September 22nd. And around the album release, are you guys going to play any shows or anything like that, or?
Yeah, so we're kicking off our fall touring at the end of September here, and so the night the record drops, we're actually going to be playing in Windsor, Ontario, with a great band called Here on Lines. They're also putting out a record, and our good friend and very talented touring troubadour Eamon McGrath is putting the whole thing together. So we're thrilled to go down there and be among friends and another great band. Um, yeah, that's gonna kind of kick us off, and we'll travel the 401 over to Kitchener and Hamilton following that in early October, and we're building out the tour dates right now. We're looking to announce a Toronto show to kind of bring us all back home. So that should be announced soon.
Awesome. Yeah, and if I'm not working that day, I'll be there. You'll see me. And yeah, it's cool. Even Mike, I don't know where, but I feel like I might have met you or cross paths or something, but I'm sure maybe like at a venue or something, and it's kind of like bugging me like
Oh
how
yeah.
familiar you look, but maybe we're just like kind of like in the same circles because obviously you guys are out in the scene, active and everything too. So I feel like after I post this interview, I'm gonna find out you're a friend of a friend or something. But
Yeah, it's a small world. The
yeah,
world of music, it always kind of blows your mind, all the connections and all the friends of friends, and it's a great way to like see the world get tied together, and it makes it smaller, and that community aspect's always been so important to us, especially in punk rock. There's always some comfort in when you're touring in the States and maybe you're in a city you've never been in before, and someone's like, oh, go stay at Danielle's house, she's going to treat you good. You're really fast tracked with trust and hospitality and friendship. We Rach and I have friends out in all over, like from New York to LA, that we've probably only ever spent a week with, if you like compartmentalized or if you like crushed it all down, like. But
mhm.
just that familiarity, and especially if they're doing something in line with us, if there's someone who books shows, or if they're in a band or just loves hosting bands, that relationship kind of like fast tracks you. You kind of like get all you. There's no real small talk. It's just like, okay, like we're kicking it. We're gonna take you around South Philly tonight. We're gonna have a great time, and those are some of the best memories of just like you know, um, hitting the spots with a complete stranger who, by the end of the night or the early morning, is your new best friend. So
Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing too, because I guess just like the similar perspective, similar struggles, similar victories, just going through like the hardships and of just being in a band and traveling to that would definitely like fast track a friendship and maybe meet somebody like after one night, it makes you feel like you've known them your whole life, and even maybe make you feel closer to them than people you've known your whole life in a way. Just that similar heart and soul and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but before I let you guys go, is there anything else you want to say or plug before we take off?
Record is out September 22nd. You can find us at Dead Broke Band on all platforms, and we hope you dig everything. Come to a show. It's always a safe and friendly space, and we love to see all the smiling faces in the pit.
Thanks again to Michael and Rachel. That was such a great talk. And like we mentioned, When the Night Comes In, it is out right now. Definitely check it out. In that video we were talking about on the subways, the Toronto streets, is titled Not Yours to Take. And a little follow-up. A couple days after we recorded this interview, I got one of those calls again. Some of my college roommates, shout out to Cassandra, Ashley, and Aaron. They were having a little girls' night in Toronto. They're not from here. But during their girls' night, they're like, how can we make this interesting? Who's around here? And they called me. So I ended up getting out of the house, going downtown. Went to a club I never heard of, and they weren't feeling the vibe. So as the local, it was my responsibility to change that. So I said, I know a place. The vibe is different. The vibe is good. And I took them over to the Bovine. If you're from Toronto, you know the Bovine is one of the most famous rock and punk clubs. And it was basically the opposite of where we were currently at, so we went over there. They walked in. They were astounded. I forget places outside of the city don't have bars like this. But short story long, we stepped outside for a moment, and there was our boy, our new friend Michael Bright of Dead Broke, and we caught up with him. Had a little great talk once again in the streets of Toronto. So yeah, like kind of like how the end of the interview was, where I said, I think I know you from somewhere. We definitely walk in the same circles. And yeah, it's great to officially meet you and Rachel, and I'm sure that won't be the last time I see you guys. And speaking of other good people, we can't leave without giving a thanks to all you legends on the Patreon page. First up, the biggest thanks to Mike Carniello of the Testing with Mike YouTube channel. If you're into electronics, technology, and how they work, and even how to fix them, go check out Testing with Mike. Also, the lovely Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd. Along with Top 10 Nerd, Amanda McKnight has her own personal channel where she covers everything from comic book, video games, and all things nerdy. Definitely check it out. And another thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legendary Devin McBride, Ryan frickin' Campbell, my favorite soul singer, Saber, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want a shout out at the end of every episode and also get these episodes early, raw, and uncut, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I go over and I post them. You can go to patreon.com/thecreative-imbalance. It's only $4 a month. And beyond your support, you, my friend, can go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media. And nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? Like always, we got a lot of amazing episodes in the backlog posted on there and coming for all you guys around the corner. Feeling blessed to have a lot of amazing talks lately, and I appreciate you so much for listening to them. Catch you soon, guys. Yeah.